You look at your savings account balance and feel a quiet sense of relief. The number is still there, maybe a little higher than before. Nothing seems wrong. No warning signs, no visible loss. And that is exactly why almost no one becomes suspicious. Most people believe their money is safe in a savings account. Not because it grows much, but because it does not disappear. It stays. It does not fall. It does not create anxiety. This visual stability creates a strong feeling of security, a quiet, comfortable feeling that settles in without effort. Daniel Kahneman spent his life studying this kind of illusion. Not the obvious ones, but the kind that work because they feel normal. He showed that the human mind often confuses ease of understanding with truth. If something is easy to read, we assume it is safe. If the number on the statement does not change, the brain interprets that as low risk, but danger rarely announces itself. When you check your savings account, you see only one kind of information: the nominal value, a single number separated from everything else. That number does not show what changed around it. It does not show prices. It does not show time. It does not show what was lost along the way. And yet, the mind accepts it as a complete picture of reality. This is the trap. Not a scam, not a banking error, but a predictable human weakness. The same one Kahneman described when explaining how we judge complex situations using shortcuts that are too simple. Here, the shortcut is clear. If the balance did not go down, then nothing was lost. But that conclusion misses something essential. Money does not exist on its own. It exists in relation to the world. And the world changes every day, even when the statement seems frozen in time. What follows is not about hidden fees or clever tricks. It is about something far more common. So common that millions of people miss it, year after year. This is not about what you see on your statement. It is about what you lose without noticing. A young woman did everything right, at least by the rules she had learned. When her grandmother passed away, she received $10,000. It was not a small amount for her. It felt serious. It felt like responsibility had suddenly been placed in her hands. She did not rush. She did not spend it. She did what people around her always described as the safe choice. She put the money into a savings account and left it there. No speculation, no risk, just patience. Over the years, that decision reinforced itself. Each time she checked the account, the number looked familiar, stable, calm. Sometimes it moved up slightly. Sometimes it stayed exactly the same. The balance became quiet proof that she was being careful with her future. 10 years passed like this. During that decade, nothing dramatic happened inside the account. No sudden drops, no alarming messages, no moments that demanded action. And because nothing called for attention, the money slowly faded into the background of her life. In her mind, the money was preserved, untouched, waiting. This is where psychology matters. Kahneman explained that the brain is not built to notice slow change. We react to movement, contrast, losses that feel immediate. When something stays visually consistent, we stop paying attention. Stability becomes invisible. Each year, she felt a small sense of pride. She had not made mistakes. She had not been reckless. The savings account became part of how she saw herself: responsible, disciplined, safe. But look at what she was actually observing. Not the value of the money in real terms, only the number itself, a symbol, disconnected from daily life. Prices outside the account were changing. Rent, food, transportation, education. But those changes were processed separately. They belonged to the world, not to her savings. The account sat quietly, doing its job perfectly, showing the same reassuring number year after year. And because the brain prefers simple stories, it told her a comforting one. My money is still there. Nothing bad has happened. At this point, the illusion is almost complete. The feeling of safety was not accidental. It was built step by step, shaped by how the mind processes information. The balance did not move in ways that felt threatening, so the brain labeled it as protected. This is where the illusion becomes almost perfect. Kahneman described how people often replace a hard question with an easier one without realizing it. Instead of asking, "Is my money truly protected?" the mind asks, "Did the number go down?" The second question is easier. It needs no context, no comparison, just a glance. As long as the answer feels reassuring, the deeper question never appears. The savings account offered exactly what the brain prefers: clarity without effort. One number, one direction, no volatility, no surprises. It created a sense of control, even though no real evaluation was taking place. Stability, in this case, did not mean strength. It meant stillness. What made this especially dangerous was that nothing felt wrong. There was no pain signal, no loss notification. Loss aversion, one of the strongest forces Kahneman identified, never turned on. The money was not decreasing, so emotionally, nothing felt lost. But the absence of pain does not mean the absence of damage. Inflation works quietly. It does not remove money from the account. It changes the environment around it. Prices rise slowly, at a pace that feels normal. The brain adapts. Yesterday's prices fade. Today becomes the new baseline. Meanwhile, the savings account remains unchanged. This creates a mental split. The account represents security. The outside world represents cost of living. The two are rarely compared, and because they are not compared, the erosion stays hidden. The trap is not ignorance. It is attention pointed in the wrong place. By focusing only on nominal stability, she unknowingly accepted real instability. The account did not protect her money. It protected her from noticing what was happening. By now, the loss is already underway, quiet, steady, unremarkable, and that is exactly why it works. The moment arrived years later, without ceremony. She did not wake up expecting anything unusual. She simply decided it was time to use the money. A car, something reliable, something that matched what $10,000 once meant in her mind. She checked the balance again. The number was familiar, comfortingly close to what it had always been. That part still felt right. What had changed was everything else. At the dealership, the prices felt unreal. Models that once seemed ordinary were now far out of reach. Even modest options required compromises she had not expected. The math no longer matched her assumptions. At first, the confusion felt external. Cars had become expensive. The market was strange. Times were different. All of that was true. But it missed the deeper issue. She had been carrying an outdated picture of what her money could do. 10 years earlier, that amount could have covered most of a decent car. Now, it barely covered half. The money had not disappeared from the account, but it had disappeared from reality. This is where the illusion breaks. Nothing was taken from her savings. No transaction shows a loss. No statement records what vanished. And yet something essential was gone: purchasing power. Kahneman often emphasized that we experience losses relative to reference points. Her reference point was anchored in the past, tied to a world that no longer existed. When reality finally forced the comparison, the gap became impossible to ignore. The shock was not about finance, it was psychological. She realized that waiting had not preserved the money in the way she believed. Time had been working quietly in the background, changing the meaning of the number while she focused only on its appearance. The savings account had done exactly what it promised. It kept the number safe. What it never promised was to keep the value intact. The real revelation is simple, but uncomfortable. Money is not just a number, it is purchasing power. And purchasing power only exists in relation to prices, time, and the world around it. This is the distinction most people never make. A savings account shows nominal safety. It tells you the number is intact. But it says nothing about what that number can actually do. The mind fills in that gap on its own, assuming that stability on paper means stability in life. Kahneman warned that humans struggle to understand slow, abstract forces. Inflation is one of them. It does not feel like a loss because nothing is taken away directly. There is no clear moment of impact, no obvious before and after, just a gradual shift that escapes attention. So the brain sorts the situation incorrectly. It treats the money as safe because it does not trigger loss aversion. No decline means no danger. But this is a mistake. The loss is real, even if it is not emotionally felt. Inflation does not attack the account. It changes the meaning of the account. Each year, the same amount buys a little less. Not enough to feel dramatic, not enough to demand action, but enough to add up. Over time, the difference becomes undeniable, but only when the money is finally compared to reality. That is why this effect feels like a surprise. People assume the harm must have happened all at once. They look for a moment when something went wrong. But there is no single moment. The damage is spread across time, hidden inside normal life. This is what makes the savings illusion so powerful. It replaces real security with psychological comfort. It offers peace of mind while quietly allowing value to erode. You are not actively protecting your money. You are passively watching it shrink, frame by frame, while the brain mistakes stillness for safety. Once this is understood, the story changes. Not because the past can be undone, but because the illusion is finally visible. The danger was never invisible. It was simply easy to ignore. Most people never notice this process while it is happening. Not because they are careless, but because nothing asks for their attention. The system feels calm, familiar, safe, and the mind is content with that. But understanding how inflation works changes how you look at the balance on the screen. It leads to a different question. Not, is the money still there? But what can this money still do? Kahneman's work shows that awareness can change behavior, not through fear, but through clarity. Once the illusion is recognized, it loses much of its power. The number stops being reassuring on its own. Context begins to matter. This is not about panic. It is not about drastic moves or chasing returns. It is about recognizing that nominal safety is not the same as real protection. One preserves appearance, the other preserves function. Many people keep waiting because waiting feels neutral. It feels responsible. But time is not neutral. It applies pressure quietly, whether it is acknowledged or not. If you never question what your money represents in the real world, inflation will answer that question later. Often, at the moment, the money is needed most. You do not have to accept that outcome by default. Learning how purchasing power changes, how slow erosion works, and how psychological comfort can mislead is the first step toward more conscious decisions. Not perfect ones, just informed ones. The illusion of savings survives in silence. Once you understand what is happening, you are no longer watching passively. You are paying attention. And attention, as Kahneman showed, is often the difference between feeling safe and actually being safe.